Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap last night's Monday Night Football game. And then we'll talk about NHL, NBA, college basketball from the last night and look ahead to tonight. I'm going to do my NFL Power Rankings. I haven't done that in a while. Hit or miss, 2020 NHL Draft Edition, news and notes, and my best bet of the day. We'll start with Monday Night Football. And it was a game where it was just ugly. And quite frankly, it was due to the weather. Patriots over the Bills 14-10, a monster win for New England. They're 9-4. That is 7 straight wins for the Patriots. Buffalo's 7-5. Mac Jones, this is going to be a line that nobody's going to ride home about, but nobody will forget. 2 of 3, 19 yards. That just shows you how bad the weather was. And Josh Allen was more aggressive, 15 of 30, 145 yards and a touchdown. And on the ground, 6 for 39. And then Jones on the ground was 5 for -3. So, a big win for the Patriots. Potentially a division-changing win in the league in terms of a division winner. And the Patriots continue this amazing run that they've been on since starting the season at 2-4. All right, now I'm going to move on to the NBA. We'll recap last night's games, and we will look ahead to the slate for tonight. 76ers over the Hornets, 127-124 in overtime. Sixers 13-11, Charlotte 14-12. Joel Embiid, 43 points, 15 boards, 7 assists. That man did it by himself. He's special of a player. And Kelly Oubre, 35 points for Charlotte. Thunder over the Pistons, 114-103. The Thunder are 7-16. Detroit is 4-19. Oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did play. I was told he wasn't playing in that game. 30 and 13 assists for him. Cade Cunningham, 28 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists. He's been excellent. Pacers over the Wizards, 116-110. Best bet loses by a point. Indy 10-16. Washington 14-11. Domantas Sabonis, 30 points, 10 boards. And Bradley Beal had 34 to lead the Wizards. Grizzlies over the Heat, 105-90. Another win without John Morant. 14-10. Miami's fallen off a cliff. They're 14-11. A lot of these East teams have fallen off a cliff. Washington, Miami, Knicks. Since off to somewhat decent starts. Although the Knicks really haven't won back-to-back games in a long time. They've just been 500 or beneath or above. And then Miami and Washington really fell off a cliff. Desmond Bane, 21 points. And Tyler Herro at 24. Bulls over the Nuggets, 109-97. Chicago, 17-8. Denver, 11-12. Zach LaVine, 32 points and 8 assists. Will Barton had 19. Bucks over the Cavaliers, 112-104. The Bucks 16-9, Cleveland 13-12. Giannis Antetokounmpo 27 points, and Jared Allen had 25 with 9 boards. Hawks over the Timberwolves, 121-110. The Hawks 13-12, Minnesota 11-13. Trae Young 29 points and 11 assists. Karl Anthony Towns had 31 and 16 boards. Suns over the Spurs, 108-104. Suns 20-4. San Antonio 8-14. Chris Paul 21 points and 10 assists. DeJounte Murray 17 points and 14 assists. Warriors over the Magic 126-95. The Warriors 20-4. Orlando 5-20. Stephen Curry 31 points, 8 assists. Gary Harris had 17. And the Clippers over the Trailblazers 102-90. The Clippers are 13-12. Portland 11-14. Paul George 21 points, 8 boards. And Yusuf Nurkic 31 points to lead the Blazers. Now we look at tonight, only 3 games, 7:30 TNT, the Nets and the Mavericks. My projections for this game is Brooklyn by 1, total 213. And it is Brooklyn by 3.5, total 215.5. Now you ask yourself, Mavericks or the under? I'm going to say the under. I think the under is the better play here. 8:30 Knicks Spurs. I project the Knicks by 2 2/4, total 214.5. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 213. Very close on every end here. I have a 1 1/4 edge on San Antonio and a 1.5 edge on the over. So I'm actually going to go the slight over as the pick here, with the second pitch as a slight towards the Spurs. And then for the other game, I said under and Mavericks. And last but not least, the Celtics and the Lakers, 10 o'clock TNT. My projection is Lakers by 5 3/4, total 220.25. Meanwhile, it's 3 and 217.5. So it's like the same amount of distance here, 2 3/4. And then 2 3/4. But do I trust the over or the Lakers more is the question. There's always injury risks on either side. So, for the sake of the podcast, I would go with the over. So, all totals on the show today. So, over, and then the second pick would be the Lakers. All right, now we'll do NHL. We'll recap last night's games and look ahead to a busy slate for tonight. Avalanche over the Flyers 7-5 under Mike Yao's first game. Colorado 13-7-2. Philly 8-11-4. Number 3 started game with a goal, Cam Makka. Number 2 started 2 goals, Claude Giroux. Number 1 started game with a goal and assist, Erik Johnson. Capitals over the Ducks 4-3 in a shootout. The Caps are 16-4-6. Anaheim 13-8-5. Number 3 started game with a goal and assist, Sonny Milano. Number 2 started game with a goal, Carl Hagelin. Number 1 started game with a goal, Tom Wilson. Senators over the Devils 3-2 in a shootout. Ottawa 7-15-1. Devils 9-9-5. Number 3 started game with the goal, Damon Severson. Number 2 started game with the goal and assist, Brady Tkachuk. And the number 1 started game with the shootout goal, Josh Norris. Stars over the Coyotes 4-1. The Stars 13-7-2. Arizona 5-18-2. Number 3 started game with 18 saves on 19 shots, Braden Holtby. Number 2 started game with 2 goals and 1 assist, Jamie Benn. Number 1 started game with the goal, Jacob Peterson. Canucks over the Kings 4-0. The Canucks 9-15-2. LA 10-10-4. Number 3 started game with the goal and assist, JT Miller. Number 2 started game with the goal and assist, Brock Besser. Number 1 started game with 31 saves on 31 shots, Thatcher Demko. So, Bruce Boudreau comes in, and the Canucks look like a complete different team. And the Penguins over the Kraken 6-1. The Penguins, that was an impressive win. 12-8-5. Seattle 9-14-2. Number 3 started game with 2 goals, Jeff Carter. Number 2 started game with 2 goals and assists, Jake Gensel. Number 1 started game with a goal and 2 assists, Danton Heinen. All right, now we look ahead to a busier window for tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Blue Jackets and the Maple Leafs. Toronto's minus 300. Columbus is plus 240. Over under 6. Over is minus 115. Unders minus 105. Columbus plus 1F is minus 110. Toronto minus 1F is minus 110. The Blue Jackets have played terrible lately. I'm laying it with the Maple Leafs with the puck line. Lightning Canadians. Lightning minus 225. Montreal plus 184. Over under 5.5. Over is minus 112. Under is minus 108. Lightning minus 1F is plus 130. Canadians plus 1F is minus 160. Let's go the over here. I think this is an over game. Tampa could do it by themselves. Islanders, Senators. Isles minus 146. Ottawa plus 122. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 114. Isles minus 1F is plus 186. Ottawa plus 1F is minus 130 or minus 235. This is a little bit of a tricky one here. Let's go the rare draw plus 310. Tie after regulation is what FanDuel has it at. Predators, Red Wings. Preds minus 125. Red Wings plus 104 over under 5.5. Overs minus 102. Unders minus 120. Preds minus 1F is plus 220. Detroit plus 1F is minus 280. I'm going to go with another draw here. 3-1 at regulation. 7:30 Ducks Sabres. The Ducks are minus 126. The Sabres are plus 105 over under 6. Over and under each minus 110. Ducks minus 1F is plus 210. Buffalo plus 1F is minus 265. I'm going to go under 6. I think John Gibson plays well. And I don't think Buffalo's offense is very good. 8 o'clock, Panthers Blues. Panthers minus 146. The Blues are plus 122. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 104. Unders minus 118. Panthers minus 1F is plus 176. Blues plus 1F is minus 215. I'm going with the Blues straight up at plus 122 to knock off the Panthers. Hurricanes Jets. Canes minus 111. Jets minus 108. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 118. Unders minus 104. Canes minus 1F is plus 235. Jets plus 1F is minus 300. I'm going to lay the minus 111 with the Hurricanes on the money line. 8:30 Rangers Blackhawks. Rangers minus 128. Blackhawks plus 106. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 110. Rangers minus 1F is plus 210. Blackhawks plus 1F is minus 265. I'm going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think they've been playing a little better since all the turmoil within the organization. They're playing hard for their intern coach. So we'll go with the Blackhawks plus 106 against the Rangers on the road. Or at home. Rangers are on the road. 9 o'clock, the Wild and the Oilers. The Oilers are minus 130. The Wild are plus 108. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 122. Unders even money. Wild minus or plus 1F is minus 245. Edmonton minus 1F is plus 194. I'm going with the Wild here, the road dog. The Wild have been great to me this year. I'm going to continue to do so with them. And last but not least, at 10:30, you have the Flames and the Sharks. The Flames are minus 152. The Sharks are plus 126. Over under 5.5. Overs plus 102. Unders minus 124. Flames minus 1F is plus 180. Sharks plus 1F is minus 225. I like the over 5.5 and plus 102. I think an empty net could seal this. My only concern with this not going over is that Markstrom plays out of his mind for Calgary like he's done all year. But Calgary doesn't score enough. But I think Calgary will score just enough. I'm going to say this is a 4-2 Flames win. So over 5.5 and plus 102. All right, college basketball. I will recap last night's games and look ahead to what is a busy window for tonight. Morgan State over Millersville, 77-71. Morgan State is now 4-5. Texas Southern upsets number 20 Florida, 69-54. Texas Southern 1-7. Florida 6-2. Colgate over Columbia, 89-61. Colgate 4-5. Columbia 3-7. Mercer over Coastal Carolina, 74-69. Mercer 6-4. Coastal 4-3. Georgia State over Voorhees, 80-51. Georgia State is 5-3. Citadel over NC Central, 80-67. The Citadel's 5-3. NC Central 3-7. Morehead State over Presbyterian, 71-66. Morehead 6-3. Presbyterian 6-4. Towson over Kent State, 73-58. Towson 6-3. Kent State 4-3. Harvard over Babson, 74-64. Harvard 8-4. Liberty over Delaware State, 96-60. Liberty 5-3. Delaware State 2-7. Illinois over Iowa, 87-83. Illinois 7-2. Iowa 7-2. Number 14, Houston over Alcorn State, 77-45. Houston 8-1. Alcorn 1-7. New Mexico State over New Mexico, 78-76 in overtime. As Nate Pryor, it's a buzzer beater at the end of the game. New Mexico State 7-2. New Mexico 5-4. And Pepperdine over San Jose State, 82-69. Pepperdine 3-8. San Jose State 4-4. Now we look ahead to a busier window tonight. The first one we can skip. It's Sonny Purchase at Army. Next up, Sacred Heart, Rhode Island. We're in the 6 o'clock window. My projection is Rhode Island 11. I'm sorry, 21. Why am I reading 11? 15F and 137F. I'm going to lay with Rhode Island. Vermont and Providence. My projection is Providence by 8. This game's on Fox Sports 1 at 6:30, and it's 7 and 128.5. I'll go with the over. CBS Sports Network, Virginia James Madison. My projection is Virginia by 6. And it's 5.5 and 123.5. Oh my God, that's such a low number. I'm going to go under because that's Virginia for it, sure. 7 o'clock, SEC Network, Southern at number 10, Kentucky. My projection is Kentucky 28.25. And it's 27.5, total 147. I'll take the over. All right, from MSG on ESPN, Texas Tech at number 13, Tennessee. My projection is Tennessee by 5, and it's 4.5, totals 139. I'll take the over. Bucknell and Princeton. My projection is Princeton by 14.5. And it is, let's see here, 14 and 151.5. I'll take the over. Furman and Winthrop. My projection is Winthrop 1.5. And it is Furman 1.5, total 153. Give me Winthrop plus the 1.5 and minus 112 on the money line. Goldfield, High Point, Columbia International, Campbell, East, West, University of Valparaiso. We can skip those. Old Dominion and William and Mary. My projection is Old Dom by 9.5. And it is Old Dom 7.5, total 126.5. I'm landing with Old Dom. NC 18, East Carolina. My projection is East Carolina by 7.5. And it's 10.5 and 130.5. I'm taking NC 18 plus the 10.5. UMass and Northeastern. My projection is Northeastern by 6, and it's 1.5. I'm laying the 1.5 with Northeastern. Fairleigh Dickinson and LaSalle. My projection is LaSalle 13.5. And this line is 10 and 146. So I'm going to lay with LaSalle. Navy and George Mason. My projection is George Mason by 3/4. And it's 4.5 and 129.5. I'm taking Navy plus the 4.5, and they might win this game outright. Brown, Mary Mac. My projection here is Brown by 8.5. And it's 2.5 and 118.5. I'm laying it with Brown. Albany, Yale. My projection is Yale 16 3/4, and it's 12.5 and 138.5. I'm laying it with Yale. Jacksonville, Georgia. My projection is Georgia 5. And it's 9.5 and 130.5. I'm taking Jacksonville in the points. Florida Gulf Coast and Florida A&M. My projection is Gulf Coast 11.5. And it's 4.5 and 137.5. I'm laying it with Gulf Coast. Oakland and Bowling Green. My projection is Oakland by 1.5, and it's Oakland 2.5, totals 149.5. I'll take the over. Bradley, Toledo. My projection is Toledo by 13. And it's 5.5 and 142.5. I'm laying it with Toledo. On ESPN2, Michigan, Nebraska. My projection is Michigan by 6 3/4. And this line is 7.5 and 140.5. I'm taking the over. 8 o'clock, UTEP at number 8, Kansas. My projection is Kansas 19.5. Meanwhile, it is 19.5 and totals 144.5. I'll take the over. Dallas Christian, Tarleton. We could skip. I said Charleston by mistake. South Dakota and Northern Colorado. My projection is Northern by 1. And it's 8.5 and 140.5. I'm taking South Dakota plus 8.5, and I think they could win outright. They're 3-1. Roosevelt, Loyola, Chicago. We can skip. Charleston, Tulane. My projection is Tulane 5.5. And this line is 3.5 and 152.5. I'm laying it with Tulane. Temple, Vandy. My projection is Vandy by 5 1/4. And it's 8.5 and 134.5. I'm taking Temple in the points. Eastern Illinois and Missouri. My projection is Missouri by 12 3/4. And it's 18.5 and 127.5. I'm taking Eastern in the points. Champion Christian Houston Baptist, we're going to skip. Belmont, St. Louis. My projection is St. Louis by 5 3/4. Meanwhile, it is 2.5 and 150.5. I'm laying it with St. Louis. Duquesne DePaul on Fox Sports 1 at 8:30. My projection is DePaul by 12.5. And it's 7.5 and 143.5. I'm laying it with DePaul. By the way, Nevada and Texas Arlington canceled. 9 o'clock on ESPN at the Garden. Number 6 Villanova and Syracuse. The Jimmy V Classic. My projection is Villanova by 5.5. Meanwhile, it is 9.5 and 144.5. Syracuse at the Garden as an underdog with I have an edge, and it's like an automatic for me. Will they win outright? No, but I think they'll cover. SEC Network, Charlotte and number 12 Arkansas. My projection is Arkansas by 18 3/4. Meanwhile, it's 19.5 and 143.5. I'll take the over. ESPN 2, Butler, Oklahoma. My projection is Oklahoma 5.5. And it's 11 and 125.5. I'm taking Butler in the points. Loyola Marymount and Tulsa. My projection is Marymount by 2. And it's Tulsa by 3, total 134.5. I'm taking Marymount plus the 3 and plus 122 on the money line. Mount St. Mary's and Santa Clara. My projection is Santa Clara by 17. And it's 18.5, totals 134.5. I'll take the... Let's take the under. I think this is an under game. North Dakota State and Montana State. My projection is Montana State by 1/4. And it's 3.5 and 132.5. I'm taking North Dakota State in the points. And maybe was plus 140 straight up. Eastern Kentucky at number 16 USC. 10 o'clock Pac-12 Network. My projection is USC by 16 1/4. Meanwhile, 16.5 and 151.5. I'll take the over. Boise State and Cal State Northridge. My projection is Boise by 7.5. And it's 12.5 and 125.5. I'm taking Northridge in the points. And last but not least, North Dakota and Cal Baptist. My projection is Baptist by 7. And it's 12.5 and 144.5. I'm taking North Dakota plus the 12.5 to cover the spread. All right, now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings. I have not done these in a while. I'm going to go from 32 to 1 and talk about something that we learned about each team this season. 32 is the Houston Texans. Something that came to my mind was I think they were doing the right thing by holding on to Deshaun Watson for the time being. You have a lot of teams that are going to be having top 10 picks that need quarterbacks potentially, like the Giants have 2 top 10 picks that they could trade to get Deshaun. You have some other teams that have really good assets that could trade, like the Dolphins. Number 31 is the Detroit Lions. Something that caught my eye about this team is that despite many coaching melees and the lack of talent on this roster, they continued to battle, and they finally pulled one out of the rear end on Sunday. Number 30 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Something that caught my eye when I learned about this team, or just about them in general. Urban Meyer is built for college. He's not built for the NFL. Number 29 is the New York Jets. What we know is that Zach Wilson is just an unknown. It's too early to judge Zach Wilson. Very inconsistent, bad roster around him. 28 is the New York Giants. What I learned about them is that a lot of things can change within a year. A year ago, people were pumping up Joe Judge to be a great coach in this league, and now, a year later, everyone wants him out of town, and I think there's a chance he's fired because I think that the GM, Dave Gettleman, is going to be fired at the end of the season. Number 27, I have the Chicago Bears. What I learned about the Bears and what I know, there was a lot of risk in trading their first-round pick for Justin Fields, but it might be worth it in the end. It looks bad right now because the Giants are going to have an extra top 10 pick, but it might look good down the road if Fields is a star. Number 26 is the Carolina Panthers. What we know about them is that, boy, have we overrated Joe Brady. That guy just got fired out of nowhere on Sunday. Number 25, the Atlanta Falcons. They feel like a team that just tries to hang in these games and these good offenses, but they just fall apart. That's been their mojo this year. Number 24 is the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson's injury cost them their season, is what we know about them. That's obvious. If he was healthy the whole year, they'd be over 500 and in full control of one of those wild card spots. Number 23 is the Washington football team. This is the second half emergence team of the NFC, is what we know about this team. And they're looking for a playoff spot. And Chase Young is a Ewing theory candidate right now. 22 is the Miami Dolphins. They're the AFC's version of the Washington football team. The good second half team. Bad start, and they really turned it around, took advantage of an easy schedule. But we'll see where this goes. And Brian Flores really, I think, has saved his job a little bit here. And so was Ron Rivera on the flip side. Both these coaches, to me, have saved their jobs. That's why I put those teams next to each other. 21 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Too much turmoil this year. And it came back to bite them. The Gruden thing and the Ruggs thing. Number 20 is the Denver Broncos. This team would have been a contender with a quarterback that had a high ceiling. Number 19 is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is the most Jekyll and Hyde team of the season. They might make the playoffs. They might not make the playoffs. And there's no more Jekyll and Hyde player in the league this year than Jalen Hurts. Even though Minshew quarterbacked them the other day. 18 is the New Orleans Saints. What we know about them this year is that injuries have really cost the team a chance to be a good team. The Jameis Winston injury absolutely killed them. I said it at the time. I'm not a big Jameis fan, but at least he can put up some stats and lead teams to wins. Number 17 is the Cleveland Browns. Something that caught my eye about this team is that this could be a sneaky team to watch when it comes to the quarterback market. They haven't paid Baker Mayfield yet, and he's been hurt a lot throughout his career, so that wouldn't be dumbfounding if they moved on from Baker Mayfield. Number 16 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the 2015 Broncos to me, except a little bit of a worse team from a defensive standpoint, and a little better from an offensive standpoint. And the quarterbacks are, I think, cancel each other out. Right now, Ben reminds me of Peyton from the 2015 Broncos. That offense, the Steeler offense now is better than the Bronco offense. And the Bronco defense that helped them win the Super Bowl, I think, is better than the Steelers defense. Only because I think TJ Watt has room to grow as a player still. But Von Miller was at the peak of his powers, and I don't think TJ Watt is at the Von Miller 2016 Super Bowl level quite yet. He could get there, and I think he will get there, but not yet. So that's my takeaway for the Steelers this year. 15 is the San Francisco 49ers. I think that injuries are beyond what's really the fundamental problem with this team, because this is in the same song and dance the last couple years. I just think that they might need like a potential like overhaul in the medical staff or whatnot, because this can't keep happening to a team that is trying to win now year after year and trying to be a contender year after year. Number 14 is the Tennessee Titans. I've said on the podcast several times, running backs matter. They're proving that yet again, that running backs matter. Because Derrick Henry gone, and then they go and lose to the Texans. That's all you need to know. And he was carrying them to these wins. And a team that I'm going to talk about next is also proving that running backs matter. And that's number 13, the Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Taylor has been amazing this year. And I mean amazing. And I think that he's going to be in the conversation for the MVP if the Colts make the playoffs. Number 12 is the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know why I have this team at number 12. They just lost to the Lions. But that was like a fluke loss in a lot of ways. Because that was a 4th and 2. And Goff just found the man in the end zone. Like, they lost that pretty much at the buzzer. So, that's just classic Vikings. Way to lose a game. And I think what we learned is that Kirk Cousins is the least of their problems. I think their problems rely on the offensive line and on defense. I think Kirk is getting too much blame and criticism for the Vikings losing to the Lions. Meanwhile, their defense is what blew it on the last play, not Kirk Cousins. Number 11 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Talk about an AFC Jekyll and Hyde team. They destroy the Steelers and then get blown out by the Chargers. What we know about the Bengals is that Joe Burrow is the breakout quarterback of the year. Number 10 is the Los Angeles Chargers. I think what we learned this year is that Justin Herbert's not the best quarterback from this draft class. Everyone was saying that a year ago. No way. Talk about the best quarterback in this draft class. It's the guy we just talked about, Joe Burrow. Number 9 is the Baltimore Ravens. I think their injuries are going to come back and haunt this team come January. They lost their 2 best corners, their 2 best running backs before the year. This has been injuries galore for the Ravens, and somehow they're in first place in the division. Number 8 is the Dallas Cowboys. This was a dominant team in the first half, but my takeaway for them is that they might have peaked already. Number 7 is the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is like the reverse take for them. I think that their peak is still to come. They really haven't had that dominant performance outside of that Raiders game, but that was against a bad Raiders team, as we discussed earlier. But I still think this team has potential to hit. Number 6 is the Los Angeles Rams. I think this is the classic paper team. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is a good player anymore. I overrated him as a player the last couple years, especially since he got traded from the Giants. And I thought it was a massive mistake of the Giants to trade him. And if anything, they traded him a year late. We can go on and on about the mistakes the Giants have made, especially with Odell and the time they traded him. But I don't think he's going to be a big-time receiver for the Rams. And this is the Hollywood team, but let's be honest, it's not going to come out Hollywood unless if they play like they did before they acquired Odell. Number 5 is the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is the most disrespected team in the league. This team is really good. Cliff Kingsbury, to me, has to be the coach of the year. You can't convince me otherwise. Winning 2 games with Colt McCoy and without DeAndre Hopkins, are you kidding me? And I don't think Kingsbury is the best coach in the world, but he's done the best job this year, him and Bill Belichick, in my opinion. Number 4, the Green Bay Packers. What we know this year and what we learned, and my biggest takeaway, is that Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. People are going to criticize me for this because of the COVID thing and he lied about his vaccination status. Put that aside. Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. Jordan Love started that game because Aaron Rodgers came up with COVID. Whether he was vaccinated or not, he still probably wouldn't have played in that game. And Jordan Love was just awful. If Aaron Rodgers is in that game, Green Bay wins. That day, it dawned on me that Aaron Rodgers was the MVP. You can't convince me otherwise. He's just been that good this year. Number 3, the Buffalo Bills. I just think the Bills are an awesome team. But the loss of Trey White, I think, will eventually come back to hurt him. I think that loss last night had more to do with the weather than their performance. And I think both offenses last night were affected by it. And we'll just put 3 and 2 together. But my biggest takeaway for the Bills is that, and even before last night, they are not the best team in their own division. And that was before Trey White's injury. I think the Patriots have a better roster, the better coach, but obviously not the better quarterback, but that doesn't matter. It's a better team, and this is a team sport, not a quarterback sport. And the Patriots are my number 2, and to me, my biggest takeaway is that Mac Jones was put in the best place to succeed as a rookie quarterback since Russell Wilson with the Seahawks back in 2012. And Mac being good is an absolute bonus, just like Russell Wilson being good for Seattle in 2012 was an absolute bonus. And number 1, I'm sorry, if there's not any doubt, it's the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, still Tom Brady, the best player in the world. Injuries galore, but they're finding ways to win. That Saints game was very much an aberration to me. This team is a machine, especially in their home building. Once this team gets healthy, look out. They're going to be poised to repeat as Super Bowl champions. All right, now we'll move on to Hit or Miss 2020 NHL Draft Edition. This one's usually the tougher of the 4 because some of these guys haven't played in the league yet and whatnot. But we'll go 1 through 31 for the first round of this draft, hit or miss. All right, Alexis Lafreniere, number 1 overall pick by the Rangers. Right now it's a miss. I'm sorry. Part of this is the Rangers' fault because they're shoving him in their bottom 6. But he should be playing in their top 6. And if anything, they should potentially look to, dare I say, trade him before his value goes down. Because people still think he's going to be this special player. I'm not so convinced that he's going to be the end-all, be-all great player that he was hyped up to be before the draft. That's why I'm saying miss for the time being, despite the Rangers being good this year. Next up, the number 2 overall pick, Quinton Byfield. He's only played in 1 game, and he's been injured, so I'm sorry. Right now, this looks like a miss because he really hasn't played much for the Kings. That's not the Kings' fault that he's been injured, but he's been injured. To me, it's a hit if you're putting up the stats and contributing to your team. But who knows, Lafreniere and Byfield could be hits in a year from now. And who knows, maybe 6 months from now. Number 3 overall from Ottawa, Tim Stutzel from the Sharks. Right now, this looks like a hit. Despite a -11 plus-minus, Stutzel's contributed for Ottawa. 76 games, 40 points. Not bad for number 3 overall pick. All right, the number 4 overall pick by the Detroit Red Wings, Lucas Raymond. Absolute hit. He's one of the big reasons why the Red Wings are in playoff position right now. 22 points on the year, a +3 in plus minus, and a point shares of 2.6. So he's been great. That's a hit. The number 5 overall pick, by the Ottawa Senators, Jake Sanderson. He hasn't played a game in the league yet this year, but in college this year, as an alternate captain, by the way, this looks like a hit. Jake Sanderson looks like he's going to be a star, potentially like an Adam Fox type of player for the Ottawa Senators. So I'm giving that a hit. Number 6 overall, Jamie Drysdale by the Anaheim Ducks. This is a hit. 13 points in 26 games for the Ducks this year. Really, really good D-man for Anaheim this year. Number 7, the New Jersey Devils, Alexander Holtz. As of now, I'm going to give this is a tough one to gauge because he's played in 6 NHL games and has 2 assists. Meanwhile, for the Utica Comets in the AHL, 9 points in 9 games. So I'll give it a hit. I'll give Alexander Holtz a hit for the time being. Next up, Jack Quinn. Hasn't played a game for the Sabres yet this year. I'm going to say this is a hit. He's putting up the numbers in the AHL. Really has had a good history of being a stat getter. So we've had a ton of hits so far. 2 misses, 1 because of injury, 1 because of inconsistencies. But the rest of these have been hits so far. Next up, number 9, the Minnesota Wild. Marco Rossi. Playing with the Iowa Wild right now. Hasn't played with Minnesota yet. Giving this a hit for the time being. Putting up good stats for them. Number 10, the Winnipeg Jets, Cole Perfetti, currently in the NHL. And only 2 games with the Jets, but in the AHL, 17 points. So, looks giving this one and yet another hit. All right, next up, the Nashville Predators, 11th overall, Yaroslav Askarov. Currently playing overseas. You're probably not going to see him for a while. But right now, this is a tough one because in international play, there's only 1 game, but it wasn't good. So we'll give it a hit for the time being. 2.01 GAA, 904 save percentage in the KHL, and the VHL 220 and 913. So we'll give that yet another hit. Next up, the Florida Panthers. Anton Lundell. He was the 11th overall pick. Currently on the Panthers. And 11 points. This is a hit. Yet another hit. Good job, Panthers. Really. Oh, I'm sorry. The 12th overall pick. And next up, the Carolina Hurricanes, Seth Jarvis. This was 13th overall. Currently on the Hurricanes. 9 points in 16 games with the Canes. So we'll give it a hit. He's contributed for a good team. Next up, Dylan Holloway of the Edmonton Oilers. Was 14 overall. Not with the team yet. Hasn't played yet this year because of injury. But was really good in Wisconsin. So I'll give this a hit because of how good he was last year. Next up, the Toronto Maple Leafs from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Rodion Amirov. Obviously, that was the pick that went to Toronto in the Kasperi Kapanen deal. And right now, I'm sorry, this is a miss. He really hasn't produced much yet. So, this is like the third miss so far. Rodion Amirov. Next up, Kaden Ghoul. Defenseman. Montreal picked him. 16th overall. And right now, I would say a hit. Playing pretty well in the WHL. Pretty good point getter for a defenseman. Next up, the Chicago Blackhawks. Lucas Reichel. Currently in the AHL. So maybe he'll play for Chicago this year. 12 points in 15 games. I give that a hit. Next up, the New Jersey Devils. Dawson Mercer. He's been really good. This is a hit. His development has been a reason why the New Jersey has been able to hover around 500 this year. 14 points in 23 games. Next up, defenseman Braden Schneider, New York Rangers. 19th overall. Currently with AHL Hartford. 7 points in 18 games. I'll give it a hit for the time being because it's a defenseman. Probably playing on the third line or whatnot. So, hit, but it's like an asterisk in a way. Next up, the New Jersey Devils. Shakir. Makka Maldin. This is a miss for the time being. He really hasn't put up all the numbers yet, even though he's a defenseman. 21, the Columbus Blue Jackets, Yegor Shanikov. Currently with the Blue Jackets. Right now, this is a miss. He only had 4 points in 18 games. Got demoted to Cleveland. So right now, this looks like a miss. But like I said, these can flip. Next up, the Washington Capitals. Hendrix Lapierre, currently with the Capitals. Actually, no, never mind. He was with the Caps for a little bit. Surprised he's not with the Hershey Bears. But he's in the QMJHL right now. 14 points in 9 games. He's a points getter, so I'll give that a hit for the Capitals. Next up, the Philadelphia Flyers, Tyson Forster. Currently with Lehigh Valley in the AHL. Right now, putting up the stats in the OHL, but he really hasn't put up the point totals he'd like. Hasn't played in many games either. But in 24 games, 17 points last year. So for the time being, it looks like a hit. but it's like a not so great hit, like Braden Schneider for the Rangers. 24 Calgary, Connor Zary. Currently with the Stockton Heat of the AHL. 2 points in 9 games, so that's not a lot. And then 7 points in 9 games last year at Stockton. So we'll give Connor Zary a slight hit. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche, Justin Barron. Currently with the Colorado Eagles of the AHL. I'll give that a hit, too. He's putting up the numbers. Won't be shocked if he's on the Avalanche in the not-so-distant future. Next up, the St. Louis Blues, Jake Neighbors. Currently on. He did see some time with the Blues this year. Currently with Edmonton. Didn't look good with the Blues. They sent him down. But it looks like a hit for the time being. He's putting up numbers with the Oil Kings. But we'll see if, once he comes back up, how he does. Next up, Anaheim, Jacob Perreault. Currently with the AHL San Diego. I'll say that this is a hit. He's improved from last year to this year. Next up, 28, the Ottawa Senators, Ridley Greig. Currently with the Brandon Wheat Kings of the WHL. And he's putting up the numbers, so I'm going to give the captain of the team a hit. Next up, the Vegas Golden Knights, Brendan Bryson. Currently with the University of Michigan. Putting up the numbers, I'm giving it a hit. Next up, the Dallas Stars. Marvik Bork. I'm going to give this player, for the time being, a hit. He really put up the numbers, whether it's in the QMJHL or with the Texas Stars. This guy's going to be a stat getter for Dallas. And then 31, the San Jose Sharks, Ozzy Weisblatt, last but not least. Currently with Prince Albert in the WHL. Right now, yet another hit. He did see time with the Barracuda last year, 3 points in 6 games. But 16 and 20 with Prince Albert this year so far. So, a lot of hits so far. But the first two guys, I think, can absolutely turn it around eventually, obviously. And some of the other guys, you never know what these guys are going to be like in years from now. That's why it's fun to do this exercise and then look back and be like, oh, I was wrong or I was right. All right, news and notes time. I'm trying to get through this very quickly. So Ryan Fitzpatrick's getting hip surgery. So that's unfortunate for Washington. Sean McDermott after the game. Let's not give more credit than we need to give Bill Belichick on this one, as he's unimpressed with Bill. And Jordan Poyer and Mika Hyde were unhappy when asked if they were embarrassed by Buffalo's run defense against the Patriots. And Mac Jones on the 3-pass attempt game, it doesn't matter how many times you run it or throw it as long as you win. That's right. So Oregon loses a 5-star offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks Jr., amid Cristobal leaving for Miami. Speaking of Oregon, they lose Kevon Thibodeau. He's going to skip the Alamo Bowl and start preparing for the draft. The Heisman finalists, Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, C.J. Stroud, or Aiden Hutchinson. To me, it's Bryce Young They are in the playoff. They really have kind of silenced some doubters. I mean, if Pickett made the playoff, sure, but they make the playoff. Bryce Young did, and Bryce Young's on Alabama, the best team in the country. College football head coach buyouts total of $94.4 million. That's wild. Some coaching changes in the WNBA. Sandy Brundella out in Phoenix after 8 seasons. And the Liberty part ways with Walt Hopkins. So, 2 coaching searches in the WNBA. I think the Liberty job's intriguing because they're a team on the up. And then Phoenix is still a win-now team. So both these jobs are pretty good jobs in the WNBA. I'm surprised that Brundella's out. Maybe Brundello goes to the Liberty. If you're the Liberty, you should be all over Sandy Brundello. I'm going to have Jeff Maglicetti on the podcast hopefully soon. We got to talk about the Liberty head coaching search. Because I want to see Sandy Brundello coach the Liberty. The Red Sox are interested in Trevor Story. How would that work? Do they put him at second base? Or Bogarts at second base? DeMar DeRozan in COVID protocols. He missed the Nuggets game. Daniel Jones likely out against the Chargers, as the Giants are hopeful that he won't miss much more time with the neck injury. If I'm the Giants, you probably sit him for the rest of the year and try to get a better draft pick. If at this point, if you're the Giants, right? But at the same time, you have Joe Judge trying to save his job, so they're in a tough spot. Corey Davis out for the season as he'll undergo core muscle surgery. That's a brutal loss for Zach Wilson and the Jets. Tyrod Taylor week to week with the wrist injury, so Davis Mills to start for the Texans. Sad news, the Kentucky Derby winner, Medina Spirit, dies unexpectedly after a morning workout at Santa Anita yesterday. Very sad. Thoughts and prayers to the owners and the trainers and the horse racing community. That's a big, sad loss for horse racing. Medina Spirit was a great horse. That's so sad. Damian Lillard claps back on Twitter to a tweet reporting tension between players and Chauncey Billups. These MFs love drama. He's right. I don't blame Dame for thinking that, but saying that might bite you in the ass a little bit. The AP polls out for college basketball. Number 1, and deservingly so, the Purdue Boilermakers. 2, Baylor. 3, Duke. 4, UCLA. 5, Gonzaga. 6, Villanova. 7, Texas. 8, Kansas. 9, Alabama. 10, Kentucky. 11, Arizona. 12, Arkansas. 13, Tennessee. 14, Houston. 15, Connecticut. 16, USC. 17, Iowa State. 18, Auburn. 19, Michigan State. 20, Florida, who shouldn't be ranked anymore after losing to Texas Southern. 21, Ohio State. 22, Wisconsin. 23, Seton Hall. 24, BYU. Number 25, LSU. I think some teams gotten robbed from the rankings. Other teams I think are overranked, like Wisconsin. Florida, obviously now. Michigan State got a couple big wins, so I understand why they're ranked very high. Iowa State's undefeated, so that is understandable as well. Joe Biden announces diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, as the athletes will still compete. Obviously, the all the stuff that's going on in China is what made this decision go down. And along with that, some other non-sports news. Chris Cuomo quits SiriusXM show amid new sexual misconduct claim, as he says, I have to take a step back. And Governor Kathy Hochul in New York announces 2 new cases of Omicron in Suffolk and 2 new cases upstate. So we'll see how bad this gets. And apparently it's not supposed to be as bad as the Delta variant, so that's a good thing. All right, so last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. There's some interesting games that are being played tonight. So we'll see that whether where I'll go for this, because this is actually a tough one. But one that stood out to me in terms of a pick, I'm going to go with the team that I think is going to play well tonight in front of an arena that I think could is somewhat neutral. Obviously referring to Madison Square Garden. I'm going to take Syracuse. It's down to 8.5. I'm going to lay a unit on Syracuse. Plus 8.5 at the Garden against Villanova. Just want to throw a big game out there that I think is going to be very close. I think Syracuse could potentially win the game outright. We'll see about that. So I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.